Thank you,
Evaluating
Terry
student
Cullen.
progress, David Heisted, flipped instruction presentation.
Thank you very much, Chairman Culver, Superintendent Fujitaki, and board directors. I'm pleased to be here with a team of folks that have gone from brainchild to implementation to data collection, and I just had the fun part of doing the data analysis at the end. So we'll start with Andy Bedeau and Sean Beaverson talking about the model, and then we'll have Holly and Kelsey talk about the implementation and things that they were really excited to find out about flipped instruction, and then at the end I'll talk about the actual study.
Good evening. I'm going to give a little bit of the background of how the flipped instruction cohort began. As part of, well, it started at Kennedy High School with two teachers, Megan Alberg and Jessica Rice, who had heard about an instructional tool set called Flipped and decided to investigate whether or not that would work for their advanced algebra class, I believe. On a side note, both Jessica and Megan are presenting on Wednesday at a national Flipped conference, so that's pretty exciting, and they deserve a nod for that work. They were excited about it. They asked me, I'm Sean Beaverson, the secondary technology coordinator, for some support. Our conversations led to the decision that it would be a reasonable request to the GATE committee to dedicate some of the referendum funds to support a cohort for both professional development and development of instructional materials. A group of 25 teachers from secondary and then fewer from elementary joined that cohort and did the work throughout the year. That's primarily the background of how this started. I think it's fairly exciting work that's been done, and I will pretty much be done, and I'll turn it over to Andy from here because she gets the fun work of sharing the work that these elementary teachers did.
So thank you again, Andy Bedeau, Elementary Technology Coordinator. And just again, to give you some more context, we've talked about Flipped before, but what it is basically having video instruction for homework, and then in class there is time for homework, which would be the application of the concepts that have been learned. One of the things that I really think why Flipped has sort of taken off in this classroom that we're talking about is because the video is really helping kids understand lower Bloom's taxonomy. So remembering, understanding kinds of concepts. And the neat thing about this is they can review the videos, they can watch them over again. So really, again, these are lower level skills that kids can learn at their own pace. So then when they come into the classroom for the following day, their homework is really, again, the application and the practice, which on Bloom's taxonomy is the higher order thinking skills that we want kids to be engaged in. So if you think about a more traditional classroom, time may be spent on both lower level skills and also the higher order skills. This classroom is an example where they can spend more time on the higher order critical thinking skills, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's been a keeper in their case. I'm not going to go through all the benefits, but I'm just going to highlight a couple that in conversations with Holly and Kelsey that they have mentioned has been impactful. So again, I talked about the ability to learn at varying speeds because kids can stop and pause the video, take notes during the video, rewind it, look at it later on for review before a test. Another benefit for students is that parents can also be involved in the process. So having that ability to connect with home, parents in this case may not understand the math teaching. For example, I know lattice math, I don't really understand it either, but having that ability to support their students at home has been a really good side benefit to flipped instruction. And one that really sort of hit home with me was having students being able to take ownership of their learning. So when they come to class, they have choice. So there's certain things that they need to do during class time, and then they have projects that they can choose. So really looking at their different learning styles and being able to have some choice in their work has been a benefit for students. For the teachers, again, there's more time where they can help the students with the practice and the application, the higher order skills that we want our kids to be involved in. one other aspect of this, it's really good teaching, is that Holly and Kelsey know before students come the next day who they need to meet with. So they're better able to differentiate their instruction. They're better able to form small groups for intervention or enrichment, or even to work one-on-one. So that's been a benefit for them. And then also being able to collaborate together. Holly and Kelsey have been on this journey together, and really I think that's been one of the reasons they've been successful, is because they've been able to share and collaborate together in this work. So Holly and Kelsey are here. They're both fifth grade teachers at Normandale Hills, and I just wanted to just mention a few things about their journey, and then I'll let them talk about some of the highlights from this year. So one of the things that we always think about with flipped instruction is that it's really about the video. In this case, the video was replacing the direct instruction that previously took place in their classroom. They also added an additional benefit so that students would watch a video, most of the time, 5 or 10 minutes long? So they would watch a video at home, and then Holly and Kelsey created a form which students would answer a set of questions. So there were 4 practice questions that students would answer. This is how they were able to differentiate for the next day. So if the students had the answers right, they were able to enrich, so have activities that would enrich their instruction. If they needed more review with that skill, Holly and Kelsey could meet with them in a small group or in a one-to-one situation. So really this is a good example of how technology could help them become better teachers. They knew, even before the kids walked into the classroom the next day, who they needed to meet with. Instead of in a more traditional model, they may not know until a couple days after they give a quiz or they have a chance to look at that homework, which students are struggling and where. This is another example, this is from Holly, of what it looks like in their classroom. So we talked about that they have more time for application and practice. So Holly has broken down her class time. You can see the chunks of time at the bottom into appetizers, which are things that all the kids have to do. And then they have entrees, where this is sort of the choice time where they get to work on a project for that unit. And then they have an exit slip so that she can still do another formative assessment before they leave for that day. So currently, there was one other teacher at Ridgeview, Martha Palm, who took part in the flipped cohort. So we had a relatively small number. There was more of a secondary presence this past year. But because of the good work that was done by the elementary teachers, next year we will have 17 additional elementary teachers who represent 7 of the 10 elementary schools in the district. So I'm really looking forward to work with them and see the results that they have. And now I'll turn it over to Holly and Kelsey, and they can comment on their journey this past year.
Hi.
Oh, did you want to start?
I'm Kelsey. I just want to give you, just so you have it in your minds, what this looks like for the kids, because I know this can be kind of difficult to wrap our heads around, especially since it's a brand new thing. So the kids will come in to class, and they will come in with a notebook full of problems that they completed at home, and that was part of those forms that you just saw. So in addition to the kids showing their work in their notebook, they also completed a Google form that we make. It's really quick and easy for us to make, and we can see before the kids even walk in, like Andy said, what they've completed. So the kid walks in, and then we immediately start to go over questions that they have from the video that they watched at home the night before. So the kids at home are watching about a 5 to 7 minute video, along with completing 4 to 5 practice problems that are based on that video.
And just really quick, the form, once they submit their 4 answers, those go directly to our email accounts. So a spreadsheet pops up of our kids' data, and that's how we're able to see who has met the goal and who has not. It shows up in spreadsheet form in our emails. So as they click enter or submit, we're getting that data sitting on the couch at night watching TV, so it just starts flowing in.
One thing we do as well, every once in a while, we don't do this with every assignment, but we will actually put the answers as the kids click submit. The solutions will pop up, so it's immediate feedback for the kids as well. They really like that because they like to know that they're doing it right. At the elementary level, we don't have the formal textbooks that secondary does, where the kids can go to the back and check the answers. So that's something that we we incorporate in there as well. And so the kids come in, we go over the video, we go over the questions, and then the rest of the class is spent applying those skills and coming up with projects, and that's been the lion's share of the work for the two of us, is finding these projects that align with the standards, that are gonna benefit the kids, and that we think the kids are gonna like. And that's where we've made a lot of our progress, and we'll get into that, and we can answer questions about that in a little bit.
I think my biggest aha through this whole implementation is, wow, I used to think there's never enough time in my 70 or 80 minutes of math time. There's not enough time to get to all the kids. And you end the day feeling stressed out and just feeling like, oh my goodness, I wanted to get to so much more than I did. And with flipped instruction, taking that direct instruction portion, which is supposed to be 15 minutes, sometimes when you have 5, 6, 7, 8 kids who are like, I don't get it, and your direct instruction goes from 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and then half your class period is gone. So with this video being online, they're able to watch it over and over and over again if they're not understanding it. And that whole direct instruction piece, that maybe 30 minutes that would have taken my class time before, is now all at home. So, and as their answers are coming in online, I'm able to form my groups, and then the next day in class I'm meeting with one kid, sometimes just one, sometimes groups of 2 to 3. But that's that differentiation piece that I think is so important. We were talking about achievement gap and how we can get these kids to grow. I just feel like flipped instruction is such an answer to that, because you're able to see right away who are those kids that didn't grow last night, and what can I do to get them where they need to be. And then those kids that got it, and what can we do for them too? What can they be doing in class to increase their knowledge and to grow as well? So I now feel that class time is just super beneficial for me and for the kids, and I feel like for the first time I do have enough time to get to all the kids and do my job. So that was my biggest aha this year, more time.
The kids like it. They really do. And we took a couple surveys just of the kids throughout the year, because this was brand new to us, and we wanted to do something that we thought would work. And we kind of saw, January, February, wow, we're getting through our entire curriculum. So then we thought, okay, what else should we do? And so then we searched for standards and ways to supplement our curriculum, so we made sure our kids were as ready as they possibly could to go on to 6th grade, some of them 7th and 8th grade math from 5th grade. And the time, like Holly said, the time with the kids and being able to keep their attention, they're engaged the entire class. You don't have that look of kids just sitting there, 30 kids looking at a whiteboard waiting for the teacher to finish talking so that they can get to work. That doesn't exist anymore. The kids come in, maybe have 5 minutes of whole group instruction just talking about the video, answering questions about the video, and then they're off working. And like Holly said, maybe we meet with one kid, and even if we are only meeting with one kid, because we're able to identify what they need so soon, I could meet with every single kid in my class one-on-one every single day if I needed to. Thankfully with this, I don't have to, but if I needed to, I could, because there's enough time. We're just teaching one skill at a time, and those application projects, like we talked about, are wrapping everything up, making it more real world for the kids. For example, we're studying integers, so positive and negative numbers. And so the kids' project at school was to make a timeline of their lives from 11 years before they were born till today. Most of them are 11 years old. And so we incorporated into that social studies as well, because they had to look for world events that had happened within their timeline. And every single one of our 5th graders, no matter where they come from now, can tell you what a negative number is. They can identify them, and they know integers. And then they also got a little bit of history in it as well, and that was our application project for the integer unit. So it was a math skill, but it was taken and put into context for kids, and we're really happy with the results, and I think the kids and the parents in the end were very pleased as well.
I think one more thing just to add is Andy had on one of the benefits, student-teacher relationships. So many of my kids who went into the year, I always give a survey at the beginning of the year, do you like math? What do you struggle with in math? And you always have, I mean, there's kids that can't stand math. That's just the reality. And I ended my year with every single one of my students being able to tell me that they enjoyed my class, enjoyed learning, enjoyed growing, and they just, like Kelsey said, they love being in our classes and doing the flipped instruction, and just they get that ownership of their learning, and once they have that, it just completely empowers them. So it really was an awesome year, so we're excited for year 2.
The kids they learn that they can do it. I think so many times when you just teach a lesson in class, they go home, 20% of them talking about an achievement gap, they go home and they have no idea what they're doing. Their parents can't help them. And so then you've got 10 to 15% of the kids that are just lost. And with this, they can watch that video 25 times if they need to. They watch them at school, and we can talk more, we can address that more if you're curious about what we do with kids that don't have internet access at home. But even we've worked with kids that don't have internet access at home, that have very little parent support, and they especially love this because they're in control. It's not in the teacher's control, and it's not the parent's control anymore. The kid is in control, and that's very empowering to them.
Let's take a few minutes for board questions about the model and about the implementation. Thank you.
Okay, board members? Questions, reaction? Mark?
So could you talk a little bit about what you do for the kids that don't have internet access?
Sure. So we have, actually, this coming year, we're going to have Chromebooks for all of our 5th graders, so it's going to look very different than it did last year. But last year, each one of us had an iPad in our classrooms, and then we also have a bank of just 6 old iMacs in our hallway. And so the kids that didn't have internet access would come to school, and while we were reviewing the video with the kids that did have internet access, they would go in the hallway with headphones, and they'd watch the video and they'd submit their answers. So then we could just refresh our computer screens and see how they did. And so those kids, instead of doing the warm-up work, whatever kind of practice we had, say it's like 5 to 10 questions out of their math journals, which is our math curriculum, those kids would then just do that practice work at home, and then they would watch the video at school. The videos are only ideally 5 to 7 minutes long, so those kids would be working about 10 minutes or so at the beginning of class to watch them. And now next year, we're going to have access to some wireless internet pucks that the kids are going to be able to check out at the library, and every one of our kids is going to have a Chromebook. So that will pretty much eliminate that issue altogether.
And Kelsey, you had how many 5th graders, and how many do you think had a hard time with internet access?
I'd say 6 out of 105.
And when we began the cohort, that was one of the initial considerations. And through the work that happened in Stillwater, we had come up with a few different strategies along with that. And so I think I can tell you, we bought, I'll say, 120 to 160 DVDs. This is one of the strategies that was used in Stillwater, is burn the videos to DVD, because most people have a DVD player at the very least, and so you can provide a DVD. We got, I'll say, 40 USB thumb drives. So for some of the computer equipment that we have, we can loan out a computer. We can't provide internet access, but I can give you a computer to take home, and then I can give you a thumb drive, and then you can take that thumb drive and load it on. At Kennedy, they actually, through the replacement or the innovation funds that they were allotted, they purchased iPod Touches specifically for this purpose, and then loaded just the YouTube videos, or they weren't YouTube videos, loaded the videos onto the device, checked that out to a student. And so those were some of the ways that we managed to deal with it in this year. Out of all of the teachers that participated, they all, one of my main concerns was, if we're moving the instruction in this direction, we don't want to create a situation where we have some kids that are left out, because the teachers, frankly, aren't going to consider the work if they can't address all of their students, right? And so it was very much in the forefront of my mind to make sure that that one hurdle was taken care of. I checked in often with it, and it was a non-issue. The teachers solved it, the equipment that we had solved it, the situations were unique enough that in any instance where that was reported an issue in the beginning, it was able to be dealt with. We didn't have anyone that was left out. We had no complaints about being left out of the process.
So many of the kids when you ask them, do you have wireless internet or do you have internet access, they'll say no, and then you say, well, does mom or dad have a smartphone, or do you have a smartphone? Oh yeah, we have that. Well, do you watch videos on it? Oh yeah. And then they realize, yeah, they really do have internet, and it just doesn't, the more questions we asked of them, we realize it's a very small percentage of our kids.
One of the strengths of the strategy that they have used and that the other teachers in the cohort has used is the videos being on YouTube can be viewed on a smartphone, and then the tool that they're using for assessment, Google Forms, works on a smartphone as well. And so that's another consideration that the teachers used. Essentially, it is a teaching tool, flipping, that the teachers have gravitated toward because they're seeing positive results, and they've helped to troubleshoot any issue that would get in the way of kids being able to experience this instructional technique because it's having results, right? So even in some cases where the teachers at the secondary level were struggling to get kids to watch the videos or not getting as much buy-in as they wanted to in the fall, my belief is because the older the kids are, the more accustomed they are to being lectured, where the younger the kids are, they don't have that experience yet. They just kept coming back at the problem. This is useful. I can get time back. The one other piece that I'll mention with that, just because I thought it was rather exciting, was two of the science teachers at Olson Middle School reported back to me they had a unit that they used to have to cram into a week and a half, and their email to me was, Beaverson, we have 5 weeks for this. We've saved time, so we have 5 weeks to give to this final unit of study. That's fantastic. I mean, that's great.
So how has this changed your workload? Has it made it easier to get through things? I mean, it seems like you got to make videos every so often, so.
You want to tackle?
It's a lot of upfront work. So over last summer, we were given 28 hours through the technology, through Andy and Sean. They gave us 28 hours each to start making videos. But I mean, essentially, you're transforming your whole curriculum to videos. So it is a lot of upfront work. And Kelsey mentioned as well, now that class time's completely open, filling that class time also takes a lot of prep. So what are we going to do in class? What projects are we going to do? How do these align with the standards? How are our students going to like these? So I would say that our workload is the same as it was before as far as for us as teachers.
Huge, I'm going to piggyback off of Holly. A huge part of this is us being able to do it together. So Holly's big, what Holly's really good at is editing the videos. She's very quick at that, and what I'm good at is finding the projects that align. So we piggyback off each other and we complement each other, and we suggested that to new teachers coming in, trying this. You kind of need a buddy, because being able to have both of us together and having teachers be able to work together. Our classrooms are right next to each other, so we plan everything together anyways. That's helped a lot, and that's helped lessen that workload. Whereas if it was just one of us on our own, I think it would be a lot more difficult.
We were given 20 more hours this summer to continue making videos, and Kelsey and I submitted some PDFs and got about 16 more hours that we're dedicating to flipped instruction this summer too. So we're up to 36 hours of summer writing time to really get prepared for next year.
So do you think, at least in the beginning stages here, you'll go back and tweak some of your videos because you figured something out?
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
But,
Yeah.
but maybe down the road, they become more static, that you've kind of got them where you want them?
Right.
I'd say the end of the year, March, April, May, June, our videos, I think, are pretty good. The ones that we had at the beginning of the year, September, October, November, December, we're going to edit and change all of those. That's what we're going to be working on this summer, so.
Do you think this has more application to math than it would to, say, language arts or, sort of the humanities or social science?
I'm teaching writing next year as well as math, and I've already come up with a bazillion ideas of how I could use flipped instruction for writing, especially the grammar piece, doing a quick 5-minute video on commas. So I can see how it can fit into writing. I think language arts, I don't know, Kelsey, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think it looks different, definitely. I think that it's still something that could be done for language arts. In elementary school, we do a lot of guided reading groups where the kids meet in small groups. So instead of having the teacher instruction station where they do more of a book talk, that could be flipped. and then they come in, and then the teacher's able to cover 2 stations instead of 1, because one of them's being covered by the flipped video. If they didn't want to make it as homework, we've also found that having the kids watch the videos in class works as well. The kids are more engaged and interested in what they're doing too. So I think it goes cross-curricular, it just looks different than exactly what we're doing.
It's really funny to see the kids pop the headphones on and just get so engaged in the video, because back when we did whole instruction, it was like you would have your 25 kids sitting in front of you, and 3 minutes in, 10 of them would be like, and so it's so different with the video because they're so technologically, that's just how they were born to be. They've grown up with it, and so putting on those headphones and watching a video online is their thing. They love that. So it's kind of cool to see the engagement piece change.
So,
I'll
okay.
say that in our initial, the initial applications of flipped, science and math seem to be the most obvious, but if you return back to, you don't have to flip the slide, but you could, to Bloom's taxonomy, any of those things that fall into the bottom ones are potentials for flipped opportunities, right? So anything that's low on Bloom's taxonomy is something that has the potential to be flipped. One of the teachers at the secondary level, Deb Dargay, did a lot of work, and she's a world language teacher, and she did a lot of the work making sure that kids were up to speed when they came into class, because she didn't know what their experience was previous to getting to her class at Spanish 4, I believe. And so a lot of the flipped work went to make sure that everyone had the same background and experience with things like vocabulary and conjugating verbs. As a language arts teacher, we joke around that we've always been flipping, right? Like we send the book home and you read the book and then we come back and we discuss it. So we feel as though we invented flipped. Math just made it look cool.
I'll just piggyback too, that there's a lot of different ways, and two art teachers for elementary will be flipping next year. And the whole idea, if you think about art, is you want kids to be applying. You want them to be working in a lab situation. So having resource videos is going to be a great way that they're going to be using that instruction.
So does this change what skill sets are most important to a teacher? I mean, just listening to you describe it, it sounded like, wow, there's a whole lot of coordination and management that has to go on now in that classroom, because, I mean, and that's a good thing, but it sounds like it's a little bit, maybe different skill sets in play.
I think one of the reasons why Flipped has continued to grow in the way that it has is if you listen to the things that they're talking about doing, differentiation, small group work, all of those pieces are things that we have as educators been trained to do, but did not have the instructional time within the class to get to do. So really what you're seeing more is the benefit of those positive things that we've wanted to do for so long, but you had to figure out how do you, if the time is finite, how do you get there? So this is a fantastic example of how technology, when applied, can do something that adds efficiency and then get out of the way of great teaching. I had the opportunity to go in and observe their class twice. They'll say it was only twice, and so they had their best foot on, but they didn't really know I was coming either time. And you notice immediately in the situation where this is working is that the classroom teacher has already had the class set up for success, right? Like the kids can do this thing because of the way that the class was set up previous to the technology being introduced. So there are things, but we try to help out and support that. Video editors.
I want to say thanks for coming and really explaining, how it works, because that's really beneficial to us, I think. So appreciate that.
I have a couple of questions, if I can jump in here. I'd like to echo Mark's sentiment. Thank you for coming, Andy, Holly, Kelsey, Sean, and of course David. Two different questions. What types of questions, if any, are you getting from teachers throughout the district that aren't involved in this? Are they picking your brain? Are they saying, I'm glad you're doing it, I don't have to? I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but I'll let you answer that and I'll get to the next one.
I had a good question. One teacher asked me, and I couldn't believe she asked this. She said, so what do you do all day? And I, of course went into, I said, come on in, come and check it out. And she understands now. And I'd say we explain to people it's more of a facilitator role. And like Sean said, teachers come out of college, and not too long ago for the two of us, with this grand idea of what education is like, and what you're gonna do all these things for the kids, and then you get loaded with everything that's all the practical things. And the flipped instruction really helps us manage those practical things so that we have the time to make the meaningful units, to do the stuff that we love to do, the actual, like, the art form of teaching versus just the regurgitation of the kids, of just spitting out facts. And so that's the way that we've explained it to a lot of teachers that have asked. More people, we've got 2 more teachers in our building next year, 2 4th grade teachers that are jumping on board. 3 4th grade teachers that are jumping on board. And they really are interested in what we've done, so they want to replicate. We're helping quite a few people make their videos and get started. And Holly and I both started just kind of just testing it out, testing the waters. We didn't completely flip from the get-go. We just had videos at home for the kids to use as resources. So we're suggesting that to teachers, that they pick maybe the 4 or 5 most difficult units or lessons that they have throughout the school year, and make videos on those for the kids and the parents to use at home, and then go from there and start slowly. So
I think the fact, too, that Andy has 17 more teachers next year shows that people are interested in it. And I think Kelsey and I made a video, when was that? Middle of the year, maybe? Of just our flipped journey and kind of what we'd been through. And Andy and Sean showed that video to a lot of people. So
we found out later.
yeah. So I was getting emails from teachers in other elementary schools saying, wow, great work. I want to know more. Tell me more. So I think it's gotten a really good response. And just the fact that there's 17 more people on board from 3 this past year shows you people are interested.
Teachers from all over the country. Holly got a couple emails from teachers wanting our videos that are like way far away, and have to explain to them via email that's not how this works, but
The cohort from the secondary is continuing, and then we have another cohort started this year, and so that group will about double also, approximately.
Okay, the second part of this particular question, we'll look at the students. Are you getting any critique from your students saying, I don't think so, I don't like this, I don't like that, anything where you should try this would be cool, or it doesn't work when I use my device upside down, backwards, or?
They really there was one time I said to Holly, I said, let's just throw something in there to make sure that they're really paying attention. So end of the winter, we had them draw a snowman on their paper with a smiley face and his hat. And then
Halfway through the video, Kelsey said, okay, stop and draw a snowman at the top of your paper.
And so then we gave a little reward to the kids the next day that had done that. They loved it. And they said, why can't you do that all the time? So we were getting feedback, and we have one of our other colleagues will chime into videos. He's a man, so his voice, he'll chime in with a really deep voice. And kind of just lighten it up a little bit, and the kids have told us they really like that. There was a couple times we had kids that weren't able to watch the video at home for some reason. Their internet access had cut out, and so we just made that very seamless and said, no problem, use part of your work time today to catch up. We didn't penalize them for that. And so they went back the next day and were able to access a different video. Sometimes there's just technology flukes. But that's pretty much the only thing that I've heard.
We made it, as part of that video, we had our kids give some feedback to insert into the video for people to hear what our students thought. And so I said to my class, who would like to say how they feel about flipped instruction in this video? And every single hand went up, and they all wanted to share why flipped instruction is so great. And some of the things that they said was, you don't have to listen to the teacher talk anymore in the front of the classroom. And I get to pick what I want to do during class, and I get to learn at my own speed. So they see the benefits, like what we see, they're seeing it, and they can put it into words, so it's pretty cool.
At the secondary levels, some of the teachers received higher levels of complaints about flipping. The kids had a harder time getting their mind around it. And so the strategy that Megan Alberg used was she unflipped for a unit. So she said, fine, we'll unflip. You're not watching the videos, we're not going to do flipped. by the end of that unit, they were all like, can we go back to the way you were doing it at the beginning of the year? And so, so that was the one complaint that we had there, that I was told about.
Yeah, one day I had to go back and do a whole group instruction because we weren't able to get the video done in time. So Kelsey and I were just like, okay, we'll go back, we'll do a direct instruction lesson. The kids were just like baffled. They couldn't believe it. They were just like, this is
They
awful.
were angry at us.
Yes.
So what did you do this morning when we were at specials? We had a meeting. Ah,
What were you doing last night? Why couldn't you make
They
the
weren't
video?
happy with us.
So
So how are they going to readjust then next year?
it's a good question. I don't.
Going into sixth grade, you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. I think some of the sixth grade teachers are on board and they are flipping. And so, but I don't know.
Yeah, so
What else?
this is year one, and the way that this particular cohort worked was we offered it to those who were interested. So we had a group join with year one, and then we saw exciting results, and so the cohort expanded. And so, more teachers are doing it. It's growing at a rate of adoption, and so for next year, will they get all of their teachers have significant flipped portions? No, but is there a good chance that one or two of them will? Yes. Will that increase in the year following that? Likely, if it continues to work in this way where people are getting time back and they're having positive results in doing that. And so you can imagine that as this grows and becomes normalized in our systems, kids will experience less and less pockets where they're not getting that type of instruction. One of the things that I'll say is that they jumped in and flipped everything, and the message for our teachers has been, you're not expected to flip everything, right? Like you get to decide based on your instruction and your professional judgment, those high-value things that you would flip. And so not even every teacher is going to, even if they're part of the cohort, flip every single lesson. They're going to find the ones that make the most amount of sense to flip and then do that. But it'll be a change in instructional practice that gets them to reflect on those lessons that I think is exciting also.
I
genuinely
think
pretty
that,
excited.
I just think about our school, Normandale Hills, and all the amazing teachers we have at our school that aren't flipping, and those kids are still learning. And our fourth grade teachers who didn't flip this year had insane growth on their MAP scores. So I don't think that we need flipped to help our kids grow. I just think there's a lot of benefits to it, and if people want to try it, that'd be awesome if we could keep growing it. So
It's important for you to know too, our fifth graders did not everything was flipped. We had 2 colleagues that did not flip, and our fifth graders see all 4 of us teachers, so they had both.
only math was flipped, not language arts and the other subjects.
And I'll follow up on these students to see how they do academically the next year. Other questions from the board?
Yes, Nellie?
Yeah, well, so I have to agree that students want to own the lesson, definitely. But it looks like then you use the video every single day, right? For how long do you use the same video?
We try to do a different skill every night. So the video is just very basic, just that knowledge on Bloom's, just very, very basic with 4 basic questions. We're not trying to get crazy with the skill. Just, can you do it? And show us in these 4 questions. So it's very basic.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you have kids then that don't have internet access and then they come the following day and then they do it while the other ones already have enough practice time or enough time to watch it over and over again, what do you do to keep them level if you have 2 different groups in the morning, groups of kids?
We have, out of a class of 26, I'd say I have 26 different groups. Every single kid is doing something different at pretty much the entire class period. So the kids that come in our case, and this is going to transform now as more and more kids are getting access to technology, but for those, group of kids, maybe 3 to 5 of them, that weren't able to watch it at home, and sometimes it's because they had to go to grandma's house for dinner. Sometimes it's because they had a hockey game. Sometimes it varies, the degrees of why they didn't watch it. Those kids use their class time, the 10 minutes, to watch those videos, and then they take whatever that they start to work on in class, and they bring that home. So they're not missing anything, it's just shifted. It's kind of flipping the flip, if you will, back again.
And I don't think that that's ideal. That's why Kelsey and I were really excited to hear that we would get one-to-one Chromebooks next year. I think that if the kids can watch it at home, that's the best bet. We did find some of our kids who don't have internet at home would take their recess and watch the videos or do it before school just because they didn't. Yeah, it's just by choice because they didn't want to miss out on anything in class.
We have breaks built in because our math blocks are 70 minutes. We have breaks built in there as well where we let the kids use resources such as extra math, which is like a math fact practice, different games that strategy games that they can play. And so the kids can watch the videos then as well. I prefer personally that they watch them at the beginning of class because then I can answer their questions in class instead of having them wait. In fact, any kids that come into our classrooms, a lot of them will ask, well, can I just watch it at home tonight? I didn't get to do it last night. I say, no, you're doing it right now. Because I don't want them behind. I don't want them missing anything. But in the grand scheme of things, them taking 10 minutes to watch the video doesn't take away from their learning at all, I don't think.
And how do you, what is the, okay, before that. So you say that they work in groups. So when they're working in groups and they're doing practice during the class, do they get to interact with each other?
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yep.
Okay.
They can choose to work with a partner on a project or in a group of 3. It just depends on what the teacher wants to do. Sometimes I have them come in and do get into groups of 2 to do 10 practice problems based on the project or based on the concept from the night before. So, yep, there's a lot of interaction and collaboration. And I think that's part of the higher blooms is getting them to work together, talk about what they're learning, and apply that knowledge. So, yeah, they work together a lot.
And to vary from activity to activity, how many kids are in a group, which kids are in a group. The groups are not stagnant. We don't pick them and say, all of you understood this, so you're all in this group, and all of you didn't understand this, so you're in this group. That doesn't work like that. It's very flexible, changes from day to day, and that's one of the beautiful things about having those Google Forms and having the kid having that information before they walk in, because I can literally pick up my computer as the kids are coming in and look and just assign groups, and there's even things we can use with technology that'll pick partners for us. I don't need to do the popsicle sticks like I used to anymore. And so those are very flexible.
At the end of the unit, how do you evaluate, and do you see a big difference when in reaching goals from the kids who got enough practice at home and those who didn't?
Have they seen?
Maybe we'll get into that with the data.
Mm-hmm.
We evaluate with exit slips, which are just informal formative assessments, a couple times a week. And so we can see, just in case older brother or sister's helping them at home with their homework, we can see then in class if they understood. It's like a quiz, sort of. We don't call it that, but it's basically a formative assessment that just helps us see who understood what. And with the exit slips, it's nice too because we actually see their work. That's one of the things on the Google Forms. We want to make them quick and easy for the kids, so oftentimes we just have them enter in the answer. Especially with math, it's hard for the kids to enter in different characters and things. So the exit slips, we can see what they've actually done, so we can pinpoint the errors. And I would say most of our kids, I shouldn't say all, not 100%, but just about every single one of our kids grew more than their expected growth for the year, including the kids that didn't have access to internet at home. So.
Yes, Mark.
Just, so, we're going to talk about the referendum here after we're done talking to you, and of course, part of that is to, move to one-to-one computing.
Yay!
So middle school and high school, and then down into the, probably, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade at least, right? So my question is, do you think as classrooms have those devices available to them that teachers will willingly embrace this as an instructional method, or will it, what I'm trying to understand is, will the technology free them up you know, give them more options that they'll be grateful for? Or is there a possibility that they'll feel pressure by having that device? Now I've got to make good use of it, and therefore I'm going to have to do something that I might not want to do.
My fiance teaches in Burnsville, and they were given smart boards, but no training. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that with this one-to-one, if we give the teachers the training and the time, training and time are the biggest two things. If we give the teachers the tools, the training, and the time, they'll be able to take off with it. The biggie is if we just hand every teacher, here's your classroom set of devices, do what you need to do, then yes. I think that most of the time they're gonna get, some teachers will take advantage of it and take their own time to make it work. But if the teachers are given the time and the training to go along with those tools, then that's what we were given. We were given training, and we were given time, and we were given the tools, and that's why we were able to make this work. So I think it takes all three of those.
I'll just mention, you've heard them say they're excited because they will be teaching in a one-to-one Chromebook situation next year. That's because their principal, and with the support of their PTA and some of their technology innovation funding, have decided that they want to go ahead and pilot that with their 5th grade. So again, you can see, you know, the principal and the teachers felt they were in a place where one-to-one was going to be beneficial to student learning. So they are really going to help us as we move forward with the elementary. How is that going to look? How is that going to work? And we're really going to learn a lot from Normandale Hills, the 5th grade team, for next year.
And with that, we're getting time and training along with those. And our colleagues that didn't flip this year, that are nervous about it, are given additional time and additional training to help.
And most of them, you ask, have you used digital resources before? Do you supplement with websites and other digital resources? And they're like, yes. And we're like, yes, that's the first step of using Chromebooks is doing what you've already done. You're just not going to have to sign the computer lab out or try to, you know, get time to go down, or during testing time not be able to go. So really, that's the first step, is continuing the good work they're already doing. You know, flipping, we're using the tools, Google Apps for education. We're using Moodle. We're using a lot of the tools that all teachers currently have access to too. So continuing that work too is part of the plan.
If there aren't any more questions about the implementation, this is about the most exciting board meeting I've ever been to. I won't take too much time with the data, but I thought you'd want to see the very positive results of all of these efforts. And basically, I designed a quick study to match all of the students that were in the 5th grade classes. And you guys taught all the 5th grade students at Normandale, so it was a fairly large group of students, which is ideal for doing a study like this. And not only to match them on their 4th grade math scores on the map, but also to match on the basis of free and reduced price lunch, English language learner status, special ed status, gender. Sometimes girls learn a little faster than boys. And then to find out how much growth was made by the matched sample group of students in comparison to the folks that got the flipped instruction. And so I won't go through the nitty-gritties too much. You can read about the matching criteria. It's basically sorting the file with a hierarchy of variables that are most related to student achievement in math, and then making sure you get perfect matches on those variables that are most related to math, and try to get the best matches you possibly can. Actually, gender isn't a big factor, so if I had to trade off, I would match on everything else and have a girl and boy match, and then try to balance it off later. But basically, the computer does all of the work, and if I get ties, if I get all 6 variables matched, then I use the birth date, the one closest to the match, then, or to the student would be used for the match sample. So this is called quasi-experimental design. It qualifies for, you know, federal funding type programs. It's where you can't randomly assign. So we didn't randomly assign flipped instruction to these two teachers or randomly assign the students to the teachers. We couldn't do that, and it's really practical. But using this kind of design, if you control for the important variables, then if there are any differences in achievement rate, it's due to the instruction. And so that's what's exciting about this type of analysis. And turned out that I had 73 pairs of students that were identically matched, and then 9 pairs of students that I had 5 out of the 6 variables matched. So it's an excellent kind of matching study that we could even submit to the What Works clearinghouse because it meets their standards. There were 5 students that I couldn't match at all. They just had very unique characteristics, so those students were left out of the analysis. And so you can see it just turned out that we had identical matches on race. We had the same free and reduced lunch, English language learners. 15% of the students were special ed students, and 46% of the students were boys. And so these subgroups are small enough, so I haven't done a lot of subgroup analysis yet. Just wanted to get the total results out. But I can look at free and reduced lunch and see if the free and reduced lunch. My preliminary look at that is that free and reduced lunch students may have gained a little bit more than the non-free reduced lunch. It may not be statistically significant, but it isn't the case that the students who made the great gains were all white middle-class students, for example. So here's the graph that, the yellow doesn't show up very well on this screen, but the yellow would be the matched sample. So identically matched on the pretest and the demographics, those students gained 7.7 scale score points on the MAP test. And then the students that got the flipped instruction gained 11.7 units of growth. And that was highly statistically significant. I also put in a blue line, which is the national norm. So typically, students from 4th to 5th that have these type of pre-test scores on average would gain 5 points. And so the flipped instruction actually more than doubled that gain that the typical national norm students would make. And then for those that care about standard deviations and stuff, you use the standard deviation or the variance in scores to see if these results could be found by chance. And it turned out the most important number on this slide is at the bottom on the far right where it says SIG. That's the significance level of the finding. And if that is less than 0.05, it's considered statistically significant. Well, this is 0.002, which means that you would find a result like this by chance 2 out of 1,000 times if you did this experiment over again. So, so this is quite impressive results. It is a small group, but using the best available statistical techniques, it does look like there's a causal relationship between flipped instruction and mathematics outcomes for Normandale type students, let's say. And both groups, the control group and the treatment group, made more growth than the national norm. And the caveats are, yes, these teachers weren't randomly assigned. We could have picked the 2 best math teachers in the whole district. And so I actually went back and looked at the math results for previous years, and this was the strongest math results that we've seen in 3 years. I think you'd attest to that from the MAP results. So I think these are excellent teachers. And I really like what Sean said about, everything was in place at the beginning. So I think there are some prerequisites like, classroom management techniques, using data to make decisions that you were probably using before you got into flipped. What will be interesting is, as a team, if we can identify what are those kind of prerequisites and then come up with a list of what does it really mean to be fully implemented as a flipped classroom, and then see if we get people to meet those criteria, see if we can replicate these results. Because if you only implement half the program, you usually don't get the same kind of results. But if you do exactly the same program, and we can teach other teachers, to do what was done in this case, then we've got something that could be scalable. And I think it'll be really exciting to analyze the results from the 17 new elementary classrooms. I'd like to see if there are any secondary classrooms fully implementing that we could also do some analysis with. And it's just my pleasure and privilege to be working with such fine professionals here. It really is fun to get these kinds of results. So I'll take any questions on the analysis if you have any.
Chair,
Yes, Marie?
I just want to say congratulations. That's super.
Thank
I mean,
you.
It's so exciting. You guys should be so proud.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is, and congratulations, Dave. I think that's a terrific example of the kind of accountability that the board is looking forward to going forward as we're discussing just all the implications of purchasing new equipment and changing our instructional techniques. And the question remains, what other than standardized test scores or measurement of gain might we be looking for in terms of 21st century learning skills that students are learning, and how we value those and how we evaluate those as well. But this is great, and it's very informative for me, and I hope that we can find some ways as well to interpret this for our public as we are explaining the benefits of the direction that we're moving, that we can give these kind of vivid examples as well as some statistical reasons that there might be some increased confidence in our community that we're headed in the right direction as we're making some significant changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? There we go. Well, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda. I appreciate all the time you took to be here tonight and to inform us and make us better learners here and better teachers of what it is we're up to as a board and as a district. And I appreciate Rick Kaufman